December of 1941, Europe is conquered by the blitzkrieg tactics of the German war machine. Britain is valiantly standing at bay. China and Japan are locked in total war. Half the world is enveloped in bloody conflict, and incredibly, the United States of America is still asleep. Imagine with me at 7:55 a.m., December 7th of 1941. It's a peaceful Sunday morning over 70 years ago at a place called Pearl Harbor. The Imperial Japanese Navy approaches and launches 183 fighters and bombers from Japan's first air fleet toward Pearl Harbor. So confident of total surprise are the attackers that as they approach the island, the coded signal indicating a totally successful surprise raid is flashed back to the carrier task force before the first bomb falls. Tora, 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 Tiger, Tiger, Tiger. A single remote radar station had spotted the incoming raiders, but mistook them for a flight of B-17s due in from the mainland. The B-17s arrived, and like America itself, find themselves in the middle of a war that had not yet been declared. Yes, this is Tora, 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 the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. The attack from the Japanese aircraft carriers, Akaga, Akagi, Hiryu, Soryu, and two new carriers, the Shogun 2 and Sweden 2, lasted an hour and 45 minutes. As you see these planes in front of you, everybody must have been like, catching us completely surprise at 7:55 a.m., December 7th of 1941. These brave pilots raced to their P-44, which were fielded along with 30 caliber ammunition for aerial combat practice, and quickly found themselves in the middle of the real thing. The 2-second lieutenants commanded the Japanese at Iwo, a Marine base on Auxiliary Field close to Pearl Harbor. The Japanese bombed by bombers, landed in Wheeler Field in the center of These two brave pilots are credited with downing a total of 6 Japanese warplanes before their own planes were disabled. Both of these pilots received a Distinguished Service Cross for their actions that infamous day. As you see the bombs going off and listen to the air raid sirens, watch the airplanes flying in front of you, you can just imagine what it must have been like that fateful morning of December 7th, 1941. At Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field, the devastation was awesome. In the center of the island, 7 battleships lay at work. The California, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Tennessee, Arizona, and the Nevada. The Japanese hit first with 8 torpedo bombers, like you see in front of you right now. These capes were equipped with torpedoes designed specifically for the attack on Pearl Harbor. You see the ship not allowed the use of normal deep-running torpedoes, and that took away any claim that the Japanese could make this. It was a well-planned and executed surprise attack. Then came the Val dive bombers, armed with 1,700-pound armor-busting projectiles made for 16-inch battleship guns, but converted to aerial bombs. These planes dived down on the Nevada and Arizona. Many aircraft fell near the but the Arizona wasn't that lucky. As fighters stabbed the Arizona through their forward magazines and exploded, touching off more than 1,000,000 pounds of gunpowder. A sailor on the bottom P-40 pilot was killed just as he stepped into his cockpit. Just as they got off the ground, he stepped. This is Tora Tora fateful day of December 7th, 1941. You are there, and you can imagine what it must have been. 183 of the airplanes that you see in front of you right now, landing Pearl Harbor, Nickenfield, and all over the island of Oahu. That flight of 16 and 17s coming through the mainland arrive and are immediately attacked by the Japanese. B-17s were shot at by friend and foe, and the frightened crews landed wherever they could. One in a pineapple field. Trying to land in Nickenfield said, what a hell of a way to enter a war. Out of gas, unarmed, and no place to land. 8 of the 16 B-17s actually made it to Nickenfield. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what it was like. You can just imagine. With 183 fighters and bombers from Japan's first air fleet. The bombs going off, the strafing runs, the sound of the air raid sirens. This was those aircraft carriers. The Japanese wanted us to believe that it was a target of opportunity, but the fact of the and those ships completely took that argument away from them. Tora, Tora, Tora. This awakened a sleeping giant. We'll talk about that. The surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. 7:55 a.m. December 7th, 1941. And you are there. Watching the high overhead, the Zeros doing their strafing runs and dropping smaller bombs in the foreground. You can get an idea of what it must have been like that peaceful Sunday morning. You can just imagine what your reaction might have been if you were a soldier or a sailor or an airman planning for just a very peaceful, normal day of December 7th, and you were awakened with the sound of gunfire and torpedoes going off. This is Tora, Tora, Tora. We've taken you back in time over 7 to the United States entry into what we now know is World War II. Tora, Tora, Tora. Listen to the sound of bombs. What it must have been like if you were on the ground and not expecting this. The troops scrambled to find whatever kind of firearm they could use to shoot at the airplanes. Some shot with their pistols. In fact, one of the Japanese pilots said later that as he was diving down on a strafing run, he saw a lone Marine with a .45 caliber automatic pistol in his hand shooting at the marauding Japanese, calling the bravest American he had ever seen. At the conclusion of the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, more than half of America's entire naval fleet had been destroyed or damaged. Nearly 2,400 Americans killed, 1,200 wounded, and at the time 960 were missing. 151 aircraft were destroyed as they sat on the ground. Virtually every U.S. military aircraft in Hawaii. 2 battleships, 3 destroyers, and 2 light cruisers were destroyed. 6 battleships were damaged. Our greatest naval base lay in ruins, along with our complacency. The following day, December 7, 1941, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt announced our entry into World War II with these words to Congress, the citizens of the United States, and the world.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. It will be recorded that the distance of Hawaii from Japan makes it obvious that the attack was deliberately planned many days or even weeks ago. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
In the 44 months of fighting that followed, the United States sank every one of the Japanese aircraft carriers, battleships, and cruisers of the Pearl Harbor Strike Force. Past and present, with a final salute coming from your right, the formation of Tora aircraft. Get your cameras ready for a final salute from the Tora crew. F-22 Raptor and the Thunderbirds, and take your picture. Ladies and gentlemen, kids, the Tora 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 group is a organization within the Commemorative Air Force, an organization dedicated to restoring and preserving in-flying condition one of every Allied aircraft flown during World War II. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you the individual members. Texas at 0111. From South Houston. Our pyro lead is Gordon Webb from Springport, Michigan. I'm Ray Norton from McAllen, Texas. We are Tora Tora Tora. Tora 113 is going to do an aerobatic routine for you, showing the extreme capability of his Texan. Jim, as a child in Dallas, built model airplanes from scratch, but never really thought about flying. As he got older, Jim fell in love with Hobie cats. In 1977, a family member introduced Jim to flying. He never looked back and soloed after only 7 hours of instruction. About this time, Jim went to an air show with CF Tora 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 pilot Fred Ellsbury and was hooked. 2 years later, he started instruction in a T-6 and found his calling. In 1986, Jim got involved in the Tora 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 group, and a year later was assigned 0113, which he's flying for you today. Brazoria County is adjacent to Houston in South Texas. Jim's Zero replica you see coming in the right for a giant barrel roll was originally created from a World War II AT-6 trainer for the original Tora 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 movie in the late 1950s. The plane was used in other movies as well, including Midway, Baba Black Sheep, and Final Countdown. Jim traveled to Hawaii and flew Kate, CAF, and Val replica aircraft. 0113 through an exciting routine at air shows around the country, and he's pleased to be here. Flying for you today in Jim doing a 4-point hesitation roll. Soon he'll have his unlimited aerobatic license, which will allow him to fly a Zero closer to the ground as he feels safe. A versatile pilot, Jim also enjoys flying the Douglas A-26 Invader. Fast, maneuverable, and has no unusual flying characteristics. Jim and his wife Miriam reside in Surfside, Texas, southeast of Houston, and currently are building what we call a hangar minium. A hangar for his airplanes and a condominium for them to live in. We are pleased to have several members who we call second-generation Tora pilots. What happened at the end of filming of the original Tora 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 movie in the late 1950s, those planes were modified from North American AT-6 Texans and BT-13 basic trainers of World War II, and they sat around for several years and nobody did anything with them. And then finally they were donated to the then Confederate Air Force out of Harlingen. And several pilots in the Houston-Galveston area saw an opportunity to put together an air show. So they claimed the airplanes, got them black and flying condition, and in 1972 started what you now see them perform all over the country, the Tora 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 demonstration. 3 of those original pilots' sons are now performing in the Tora routine. Mike Burke, Tora Lee, Dan Reedy in Tora 114, and Patrick Hutchins in Tora 111. Second generation Tora pilots, as you see Jim finishing up the Q&A. These pilots are all dedicated to maintaining these airplanes in a workable condition so that we can continue to present this little glimpse of history for folks like you and other people like you all over the country. Children now for a photo pass. Jim Ryan in Surfside, Texas. We appreciate being here at Andrews Air Force Base, and we hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit from our show. Thank you. Ray Martin, everybody. Now, Ray, don't run away from us. Oh, I'm not going to. You and I have to talk about workers. Yeah, we do. We're going to talk a lot about workers. By the way, I'm happy to be here today. Ray is as well. It's Tora Tora Tora. We're back. Aircraft carrier. Thought totally impossible. The problem was they were going to get close enough to Japan secretly and then take off. And they were going to go land in China. The whole mission would be a success. But the problem was they were spotted early. So the now famous two little Raiders took off the deck without enough fuel, they thought, to make it where they needed.